Hey Willow, just going to be posting some links on Discord, then I'll be right with you. Okay, hope everyone's had a good week so far. Mine's been okay. Unfortunately, it's gone a bit cold, so sorry about the jacket and stuff. And obviously, holiday's over, so I'm back at work, so that is what it is. Yep, so project's going well. Hopefully I'll have a new jacket finished soon, and then I can get on with the ears for Karlak. of wish I could just run more, well, kind of wish I had a sort of time off work time all the time, but there we go. Okay. There we go. Game's getting picked up. How's everyone doing today then? Okay, so we've been interrogating this sleepy policeman and his wife. We've got the detail that she dropped her bouquet after losing her way.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yep, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her bag, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rowley gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice it at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on? Yep, and then I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. Yes, so, fun fact, before police boxes were phone boxes, they were basically literally just sort of mini cubicles to sit in. That's when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you needed reminding, Miss Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. Okay, so this looks like my guess is, right, because I figured the policeman moved the body so it was in another constable's beat, so he'd just be able to have his afternoon off. That's right, silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although, I'm going to blame the bouquet this time. I can't think how it got there. I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved from one side of the Briar Road to the opposite. Hey, Key. Just give you a quick shout out because I don't think Nolis is here. You're quite welcome for the shout out, and I be pretty good. Back at work, first day back wasn't great. I was basically given the wrong set of keys, so I had to literally spend like 30-45 minutes driving down to work and back again to drop them back off again earlier today. But yep, aside from that, can't complain really. It's gone kind of cold again, but that's so I've got the heaters back on, and that's why I'm wearing a jacket. But hey, at least I'm doing everything fully rested. Okay, so you've been... Oh yeah, I saw you were streaming some Portal yesterday, but I missed it. Yeah, kind of annoying, really. Like, there's like 3 sets of keys. All of the team leaders have one. So when I do a duty shift, because I'm just a CSA, but I'm duty validated, so I can do a duty shift. I basically have to borrow someone's keys and return them next time I'm in. You accidentally completed it in about 2 hours. Apparently you played it too many times. Yeah, that's the thing about Portal. It's got a really well written story, but if you know the puzzles, it doesn't really last that long. Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick up the bouquet. The worst of it is I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose really bought me. With that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this, sorry, solitary rose. Oh! Yes, that's it. That's the bouquet Rolly bought me for our anniversary, with old bits of change he found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Hey, Nolus. Hey, Twitch didn't start streaming, you're looking at magic cards. Fair enough then. You are sort of rebuilding your deck or getting new cards? I don't really know how magic cards work very well. I mean, I have a rough idea if it's one of those sort of, there's some very bare bones rules and the sort of cards that modify them. Then your computer/Wi-Fi made you refresh again, but you're here. Yeah, Icky's right. Twitch is really consistent as to whether it will really weirdly inconsistent as to whether it'll auto start stream when you're parked on the page. I really keep thinking about setting up a bot or something that says I've started the stream in chat. I don't know if there's a way to get Nightbot to do that.
Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where do you come by the flower?
According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement, in front of the Garadeb household. In front of the Garadeb's house? Nullis, your Sib got you a couple of boosters, your dad got you a small bulk box. Lots of commons you already had, but eh? Well, at least it's something, eh? Oh, sorting cards you got for your birthday. I suppose, to be fair, it would be very, you have to be lucky to get one of the rarer cards. I mean, I played the Pokemon card game back in the day, that's how booster packs basically work. Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case, since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Could I have it back now, please?
No, I think for good measure, this rose should be added to the court record as evidence.
The anniversary bouquet has been entered into the court record. A present for Patricia Beat from her husband Rolly. The shock of seeing the stabbed victim caused Mrs. Beat to drop the rose where she stood. Nullis partly making herself do this during stream instead of playing more Tears of the Kingdom. Fair enough. But it's a symbol of our love. I want it back after the trial. Do you hear me? I want it back. Okay, Karen.
Good grief. Rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Mrs. Beat.
Hold it! Oh. Nothing to report.
That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time. Never looked away for a second.
No one else. Wait. I suppose I should probably give this kid a more nasal voice. No one else approached the scene. Nothing else was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honour, sir. Really? That seems a little strange.
Beg your pardon, sir?
Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garadeb household, so the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Could it be a different copy, sir? One that just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, the book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived at the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how that knife ended up in her back and how that book ended up in her hand. There must be some common thread between them. Well, Mr. Naruhode, what do you make of all this?
Yeah. The whole idea of an invisible attacker has been troubling me all along. But I believe I'm starting to get a picture of what really happened here now. The fourth book that had no business being at the scene of the crime made me sure that Mrs. Garradeb was hiding something from us. But it's becoming increasingly clear that someone else has been hiding something from us as well. I think I might already be armed with everything I need to strike a decisive blow here. This time, it's going to expose the whole truth about this mysterious affair. Okay, so I just need to prove that the policeman moved the body. Like, I was kind of worried that they were going full propaganda with this, but, like, clearly, well, there was the scene earlier where the coppers were clearly being kind of xenophobic, if not outright racist, so... Okay. Is there a bouquet? Okay, I suppose I should probably examine the bouquet a bit. It's very stylish paper that the flower's wrapped in, isn't it? It's just an old newspaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose it's because I'm not used to seeing English print. It looks so exotic to me. Hey, that's an idea. Take foreign newspapers, like some sort of newspaper exchange, where foreign newspapers are used to wrap fish and chips and stuff. I suppose, to be fair, they don't really wrap fish and chips in newspapers anymore. They just use, like, well, they just get reams of print paper for it. Much more hygienic that way. I see. Is something wrong? Oh, no. I was just thinking that if you wrapped a stone-baked sweet potato in English newspaper, it might look like some sort of fancy cake. Oh, Suzato-san, you do love your cakes. Icky, but what if you want ink-stained chips? I mean, there's always octopus ink, or squid ink, I suppose. An English rose. It's such a beautiful flower. This is a rose, is it? I've never seen one before. Do you not take an interest in flowers, Mr. Naruhodo? I wouldn't say that exactly, but I do know 3 types at least. Gosh, 3? Yes, plum blossom, peach blossom, and cherry blossom. Perhaps you should consider branching out. Learn some that aren't fruit-based, tree-based, for example. Okay, I like how they're both just obsessed with snacks. Okay, nothing else there? Alright, let's have a look. Do we have any sign of a bouquet at the scene of the crime? Well, let's try. Nope. Oh well. Let's try that again. Okay, maybe... The fact he didn't notice the bouquet is something. There we go. You claim, Constable Bede, that there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes that you were guarding the scene. But that cannot be. What? What do you mean to say? In your testimony just now, Mrs. Bede, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime, with the policeman assigned to the beat, the bouquet you dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere nearby.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road, to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described. No doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs.
Meager.
Objection!
But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the facts? Ellipses nuts.
No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. It's kind of odd that this encyclopedia explains that, but... Constable Beat swore to that on Scotland Yard's honour. But the bouquet belonged to me. It has nothing to do with the case. That's why I really didn't mention it, I'm sure.
No, because sadly, it's not only your bouquet we're talking about here. More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way round. What are you talking about? Think about it. Besides Mrs. Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Garadeb's book. Mr. Garadeb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out of the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here on the west side of the street.
Notice, her feature tech time travel tablet has auto text to speech. Oh, speech to text. Auto subtitles. Who needs a stenographer?
And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road, in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here, at the scene of the crime, on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. There's no logical explanation for those things, unless somebody deliberately moved them.
What are you trying to say? The way you're talking, it sounds like you think my Rolly's done something wrong. Don't you listen to a word that scrawny lawyer says? What are we on about books and bouquets? Why should we care? It's nitpicking, if that's what it is.
Oh good, Mrs. Garadeb's come round. You might call it nitpicking, Mrs. Garadeb, but deliberately meddling with the scene of a crime is a criminal offence. It's called,
tampering, Mr. Naruhodo.
But the person responsible for this tampering could not admit to it, for a very subtle but compelling reason.
Objection!
Tampering? You've barely heard the term before. Tell us, my learned friend. Who would possibly have cause to carry out such an elaborate deception? Yes, there is someone who tampered with the scene of the crime that evening. All the evidence and all the testimony points to that one particular person. Counsel, I must imagine you substantiate this conjecture. Who are you saying is responsible for tampering with the scene of the crime?
Officer, you're next, mate.
Take that!
Exactly, Nihilus. Quote number 287. And his name is Gordon Freeman.
Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rowley Beat, it was you. What? A policeman? A member of Scotland Yard? A member of the Met?
What nonsense. Why would my Rowley do something like that? There's no one straighter than my husband. Oh, yep, he's a cop. Nobody works more tirelessly for the people of London. No, sorry, he's a cop.
Mrs. Beat, you said in your testimony that your husband asked you to go to a nearby police box to fetch the officer on duty. The 15 minutes that you were absent from the scene is the only opportunity anyone had to tamper with it.
You're making it up. It's all nonsense. It's all lies. What about that Japanese man with the whiskers? I bet it was him. He did it.
Objection!
If that was true, Constable Beat would have seen him do it.
And forgive me for pointing it out, but when you dropped your bouquet, Mrs. Bean, it was after the defendant had fled the scene. Well...
Objection!
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well.
Yep, they're the two most suspicious people in any society.
But your accusations lack one very important thing.
Ellipses nuts.
You claim the crime scene was tampered with, but there is only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime: to hide something.
That's right, he's right. But my husband and I just happened to be there, that's all. So why would he have anything to hide? It doesn't make sense.
You offered no motive for this alleged tampering, and until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats.
Constable Beat had a very good reason for wanting to tamper with the scene of the crime. That's the key to this entire affair. Mr. Naruhodo, have you managed to solve this mystery? Have you Scooby-Dooby-Dooed it?
Counsel, you made a very serious accusation against a London police officer. If you're mistaken, I'm sure I need not point out that your reputation as a lawyer will be irrevocably damaged. With that stark warning in mind, you'll now explain to the court the motive for this alleged tampering.
Yes, my lord. Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the crime scene was to hide where the victim fell. So it was in another policeman's jurisdiction, and he wouldn't have to deal with it. Where the victim fell to the ground. That is what this Bobby had to cover up at all costs.
What?
Where the victim fell? You mean where she was attacked? What are you talking about? We told you at the very start, didn't we? On the pavement of Briar Road. We saw it happen, remember? It was right here, as if anyone didn't already know. That's certainly what everyone has been led to believe. But in fact, that isn't where the victim was stabbed at all. What? What?
I'm beginning to wonder where this tumultuous trial will end, counsel. If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Take that!
But that's on the opposite side of the road.
I don't understand. On the evening in question, Mr. Garadev's book fell directly down from the open window above, and your bouquet, Miss Bede, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Good gracious!
Objection!
Perhaps you haven't been listening to the ample testimony the court has heard. But these witnesses both saw the moment the attack took place.
That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. It was 5 o'clock in the evening and already dark. There was the typical London fog on the ground when you saw the incident unfold and ran to the victim's aid. That was actually on the west side of Briar Road. No, that's not true. It can't have been. Constable Beat then arranged for you to be absent for a while by sending you for help. And during the 15 minutes you were away, he transplanted the crime scene. He moved all the things shown in this print, the victim herself, the 4 books. He moved everything, in fact, to the pavement on the east side of Briar Road.
Extraordinary.
But the constable overlooked one thing. What? What did he overlook?
The bouquet, I presume.
Exactly. The prosecution told the court just a few minutes ago about the discovery of the rose bouquet. Lord Van Seek said it wasn't noticed until the morning as it lay where the street lamps cast no light.
Yes, it couldn't be seen in the dark, obviously.
Which is why it was only the bouquet.
that was found in its original position, on the pavement on the west side of Briar Road. Exactly, Willow. Van Zieks is seething. And he's gonna have to cope, as the kids say. And that is the defence's theory about what really happened that evening. How do you respond? Constable Rowley beat. Ellipses nuts? Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to nod off again, but I haven't slept properly in a month. Did I miss anything important?
Oh, really? It isn't true, is it? What that lawyer said is all lies, isn't it? I know it is, because you're the most upstanding, righteous man I know. Kid, you married a cop.
I had a dream, a terrible dream. I was being attacked by dogs, hundreds of them. All the things I did that night, everything come out, everything exposed. Only it seems it wasn't a dream at all. Good golly, Miss Molly. Order, order, order! What on earth is the meaning of all this?
Oh, really, why? Why do you do something like this? Moving a corpse is a criminal offence, isn't it?
Again, it wasn't a corpse. Wishing the victim dead should be one too. Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London town.
I mean, to be fair, moving an injured but not dead person's even worse, because it basically puts them at risk of further injury.
I can't say, sir. What? I really am ever so sorry about all this. For damaging the yard's reputation. For everything. I have a possible explanation for why, on that particular evening, Constable Beat felt compelled to move the scene of the crime. I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know?
Notice, why did the crime scene cross the road?
You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman. And yet, Lord Van Zieks, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. Ellipses nuts. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defence, if you please.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, I think you had better show us some evidence.
At once, my lord. England, Japan, it makes no difference where you come from. Human emotions are the same. And I think I have a fairly good idea of the feelings behind this man's actions.
What gives away the motive for Constable Beat's unthinkable actions?
He's a cop. Okay, it's something that establishes that... Okay, I'll just save. Because when his saves come. Yep, there we go. The pavement where the victim was found lies just outside Constable Beat's beads.
Take that!
It's this piece of evidence here, you see.
I'm sorry to say that I don't cancel.
Objection!
What I would like to know, my learned friend, is that the motive for your unthinkable actions, by which I mean that abysmal response. Okay. Let's loady load. In that case, I guess it must be the anniversary bouquet.
Take that!
There we go. I realise that I'm a foreigner in this land, and I have only just arrived from Japan, which is why all this information about London's so-called bobbies is completely new to me. I've learned that, though honourable, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world, for example. Keeping the peace, looking after the citizens on his beat is in all kinds of ways. There's no doubt the young bobby is charged with a great deal to do each day, certainly. But for Constable Bede, the day in question was special. Special? How? On account of this bouquet, my lord. Ah, yes. It was our very first wedding anniversary. Constable Bede had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. When he and Miss Bede stumbled upon a crime along Briar Road. When he saw that shadowy figure through the fog collapse on the pavement ahead of them, what must have gone through the man's mind? But sir, just on that particular day I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Bede put up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I want to show my dear wife how much I care. This is the warrant card that Constable Bede offered to lend me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Aha! Constable Bede. Is that, or is that not, the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? And the answer to Nolis's riddle, why did the crime scene cross the road? Because the copper did it. Yes. Everything you said, it's alright. So that's it. It was all to do with the boundary of your beat. Exactly. To summarise, the incident actually occurred on Constable Bede's beat. Good gracious. Constable Bede's beat? The beat of Constable Bede? Constable? Do you realise the gravity of what you've done? He's asleep again, isn't he? It was the first time since I became a copper that I'd ever cursed God. Stay close to me, Pat. The criminal could still be lurking somewhere. As we ran over to the scene, I had every intention of doing my duty as a police officer. We've got to report this to the station as quickly as possible. But then, it dawned on me. I realised where we were, where the victim was lying, and what that meant for me. When a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigations and help detectives. Why here? Why did this have to happen here? Damn, not here. And why tonight, of all nights? Why? Why must I, a police officer, be expected to do my job and be mildly inconvenienced? Why must I cancel my plans for the evening? Like, seriously, my dude, you couldn't you couldn't just cancel the reservation and have it the meal another night? Nolis. Maria, I mean Pat. It's a copper's job to guard the scene of the crime, so I told Pat she'd have to go to the nearest police box and fetch whoever was on duty there. It was then, when I opened my mouth to speak, it just came out. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of my own mouth. This is the beat next to mine, Pat, so you'll have to go to the police box that covers it, turn right along near Shom Street, and then... Yep, just send your wife off alone. I'm sure that's perfectly safe after you've just witnessed a freaking murder. Thinking about it, that was also a dick move, wasn't it? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, Constable. I just wanted, just that one night, to take my Patricia out for dinner. Oh, really? Just that one night. You knew that if the incident was on your beat, your evening of celebration would be ruined. And so you decided to move the entire crime scene outside your jurisdiction, just across the street, to the east pavements of Briar Road, which falls on the neighbouring beat's care. You see, I thought, well, I was sure that the victim was dead, you see.
I beg your pardon?
Of course he did. Otherwise, my Rhoda would never have left the poor woman on the freezing cold pavement. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. That was pretty, awful as well.
Oh, I see your meaning now.
I think the least realistic part is the policeman's sorry.
But God got me back for my sins, didn't he?
That's why.
That's why I missed the rose I bought for Pat.
Oh no, really? That was all my fault. It was my fault you were caught committing a serious crime. I should never have dropped it in such a dark place. Otherwise, you'd have got off scot-free with corruption. I'm so sorry, really. I'm so sorry that innocent man's not going to get jailed, so you could have an evening off.
And can you tell us, Constable,
How many books did you move from the one side of the road to the other in total?
huh? Oh, 4 it was. Yes, sir. Definitely 4.
3 of them dropped by Mr. Natsume, and the 4th being the one that fell from the window upstairs in the Garrett household, of course.
But what made you place that book in the victim's hand?
When all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean? When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So, when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. You're sure it was in this book? It was this book, The Lion's Pride, the victim was holding?
Oh, yes, sir. No doubt about it, sir.
Interesting. The 4th book's information has been updated in the court record. A book entitled The Lion's Pride that was in the victim's hand when Mrs. Beat first ran over to see what had happened.
I thought it was an open and shut case at the time, you see.
There were only 2 people at the scene, and Pat and me both saw it happen.
However, which way you looked at it, it had to be the fellow who ran off who'd done it, I thought.
I couldn't see the harm, really. I didn't think moving it all over the road would make a jot of difference. Like, this could have all been avoided if he just asked his colleague nicely to cover it for him. Just saying.
I suppose this is it for me now. I've had it.
My lord.
Yes, Lord Van Zeeks?
I believe that concludes the cross-examination of the witnesses. Constable, you may withdraw.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prosecutor, sir, what will become of my Rowley? What will happen to him?
For now, you're free to go home. The police will contact you in due course.
Please,
Don't punish my husband. This was all my fault. I mean, it was your fault he got caught. It's because I'm always moaning at him for coming home late. Okay, someone make a welfare check here. Leave it now, Pat. Let's go home. I'm tired. Alright then, my love.
One last thing, Constable.
Sir?
Let this be a lesson to you. In a criminal investigation, every detail matters, however insignificant it may seem to you.
Notice, you can't speak for Britain, but if this were the US, he'd get a week's paid vacation, and then be back on someone else's street. And that'd be him losing the case. Yeah, pretty much. Definitely, I'm not. Maybe another police force might be a bit different, but definitely the Met. That's definitely something the Met would do. I don't particularly value the others. Well, I don't really fancy the chance of the others doing anything more, any better.
Yes, sir.
Carve that lesson in your mind.
Because of course he's not going to get fired for this.
And never again make the mistake of tampering with the scene of a crime.
Like, seriously?
Oh, never again, sir. You mean to say?
Of course he's going to let him off. Is this meant to be like a pet the dog moment?
Leave now. This trial is not over yet.
Sir.
I take back what I said, this is propaganda.
Well, quite a startling revelation, I must say. Never thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that. Almost as if it would pad out a story for another 30 minutes or so.
Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there are some immutable facts here. Principally, that the accused, Mr. Suzeki Natsume, is the only person who could have committed this crime.
Objection!
No, I disagree. Now that we know that the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back.
Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already.
Nellis, non-US countries are not immune to propaganda.
Yeah,
Like, Persona 4, I remember, literally had a policeman as one of the main villains, and it literally went the entire bad apple route. Like, it did have a whole sort of thing about how some, like, corrupt cops exist, and a lot of jerks just become police just for power. But it was literally put in the mouth of the corrupt cop in question. And to be fair, Persona 5 is way more anti-authoritarian. And like literally it starts the protagonist being arrested on false charges. But even then, it's still how it goes the sort of, well, you just have to fix the system in places. Lord Van Zeeks, is this true?
Ellipses nuts. Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing.
You'll name this other person who could have perpetrated the crime.
okay. So it's got to be, Mrs. Mrs. Garrett Deb. When she was throwing those wait, she's only 38? She's only a few years older than me. Present.
The defense would once again like to request the cross-examination of a new witness, my lord. Once again? My assistant made the same request earlier. in order to finally reveal the truth about this case. Will I? Living with Mr. Garradeb would age anyone. That's fair. It is imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garradeb. Me? Me? Oh, dearie me.
Objection!
That request has already been denied.
Objection!
But the situation is very different now. Mrs. Garradeb, answer me this. What do you want now, you little toad? At the time of the incident, you were engaged in a violent argument with your husband, Mr. John Garradeb. In the course of the argument, a minor house fire was ignited, and to clear the smoke from the room, your husband opened a window that looks out over Briar Road. Well, what of it? You threw this book at your husband when he was cornered with his back against the window. Upon striking the pane of the open-top hinged casement window, the book plummeted directly down. Hey, Max Ding. Looks like you're late and this ad is too long. Is Amazon trying to sell you a car? If it makes you feel any better, I don't know if you can hear this, it keeps trying to get me to sign up for the armed forces. Finding its way to what we now know to be the true scene of the incident. How's it going, Max Ding? Yes, and as I said, what of it? During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. Yep, always a little nice when they don't have any idea of what we can or want to do. Exactly. Notice whose armed forces out of curiosity? Oh yeah, it was the UK's armed forces, so like the Army, the Royal Navy and the like. During the argument, you were beside yourself with rage. As such, you threw not just books, but anything you could lay your hands on. It would have been funnier if it was the US Armed Forces. To be fair, it would have been. So let me ask you one more time, Mrs. Garradeb. This knife, the one removed from the victim's back. Oh yeah, she did react before, so she probably it probably is hers. Have you really never laid eyes on it before? I don't recall it. Seriously? Am I supposed to remember everything I picked up and threw at my husband? Anyway, the man over there in all the regalia said members of the jury needn't testify, didn't he? Conveniently, yes.
Objection!
No, I have no recollection of saying that at all. Juror number 4.
Oh.
Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You're not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out.
But that's just a common old garden knife. It could have come from anywhere. We have several like that at home. If one went missing, how do you expect me to know? What's that?
You joking? What are you saying, please, Mrs. Garradeb?
Now, you listen to me. I refuse to believe all this nonsense. I couldn't bear the thought that I'd injured someone. Do you hear? I couldn't bear it. Oh, that poor woman. So yes, I want evidence. I want to see hard evidence you're going to insist on this being my fault. You're going to have to prove to me that I threw that knife, if that's what you think. Come along now. Chop chop. Do your worst.
Well,
Mr. Narihode?
if I had evidence like that, believe me, I'd have thrown it at her already. Then take the stand, juror.
Max Ding, in good news, a friend in Kazakhstan said Kazakhstan's health ministry rejects claim of LGBT propaganda influencing teens and said the LGBT movement is in fact healthy for teens and helps them battle depression and bullying. So that's cool. Said friend is Kazakhstani. Yep, that is very cool. It's fantastic, fantastic when LGBTQ plus phobes get their assertions shot down. To be fair, a glut of that's happened in the USA, not unrecently. But then again, that's because they're trying it very hard. Nolus, take the stand. Where do I put it?
The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman.
Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm going to have to testify.
Juror number 4, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, having observed it with your own eyes today, witness testimony can lead to the most extraordinary truths being unearthed. Truths of which the witnesses themselves may not have even been aware.
Oh, dearie me.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garrideb. And mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels?
Certainly, my lord. I will get the truth extractor. Your nose still looks like a giant juicing machine.
Oh, that's what I was hoping for, my lord. And this is such a strange feeling. For the first time since arriving in this country, it actually feels real. Okay, I guess he's earned Van Zeek's respect. I'm here, in the Old Bailey, and I'm a lawyer.
Witness, state your name and occupation.
Oh, yes, my name is Joan Garrideb. And I'm, well, I'm a juror and such like. It sounds like even she doesn't know if she's a housewife or a maid, or what anymore.
The court has decided your testimony is required in order to clarify matters in this case. Do you understand, madame?
Yes, my lord.
You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Chin up, Joni. Nothing to worry about now.
Oh, hey, it's him. Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in that room that day, old thing, was it? Rather think I ought to testify as well, don't you?
But what about your knee, dear?
Don't you worry about that. Hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John.
I presume you're Mr. John Garrideb?
Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment of the 4th Northumbrian Fusiliers, sir. Seen my fair share of action, now living the quiet life, as it were. The quiet life? Were you not engaged in an incendiary battle with your spouse on the day in question?
Oh, well, yes, quite. I believe this may represent a first in the proud history of the British court. Calling a juror to the witness stand is unprecedented. However, the court will hear your testimony now, juror number 4, and as for your husband. You will recount clearly and concisely the events in your home at the time of the incident in question. Sir, at once.
Maxting, you're going to be lurking, you've got a thing to attend. Fair enough, hope the thing goes well. And thank you for the lurk. Okay, the Battle of Garrideb.
Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now. Knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd notice if 1 or 2 went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, you'll have a job proving it, I think.
That sounds like a challenge.
It sounds as though it was quite the battlefield in your household that evening.
Although,
an entirely one-sided assault, it seems.
Luckily, she didn't have both of her turn actions to use, so she could only skirmish and not barrage.
The enemy caught us on the hop, sir. Had no choice but to dig in and take defensive measures. To be honest, if the enemy had kept shelling us for another minute, we'd have been toast. Course of extra such as myself is only too aware that on every battlefield, you're just a gnat's whisker from death at any moment.
Are we still talking about a marital quarrel here?
Well, I must say, I'm dubious that this testimony will shed any light on the origins of this jackknife.
Okay, if that last joke didn't make sense, tune into KNSD tomorrow for Lancer and is dragged from stage. No, continue. Can we get a shout out for Keith, no less? Yeah, I'm not going to be playing Lancer tomorrow, but obviously it's a campaign I'm in. And how that team do will directly influence how well things go for my character, who recently had her mech blown up.
In combat, one's focus narrows such that the surroundings are barely noticed. These witnesses may not be able to offer anything more than they have testified already. This may be a dead end.
Van Zieks may well be right. Well, whatever the chances. We only have this last cross-examination to uncover the truth, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Okay, let's see if I can wrap this wrap this case up then.
Very well, counsel. Begin your cross-examination.
Hold it!
The reason is what you told us yesterday, I believe. Yes, that's right. If I remember correctly, it all started because of a note that was tucked inside the pages of a book belonging to Mr. Garadeb.
A rather passionate note, in fact. But Mrs. Garadeb found the note, discovering her husband's little secret.
And she gave him a mighty number of slaps across the face for it too.
What sordid state of affairs? Sorry, what a sordid state of affairs.
Hell on earth.
That's also how I feel when I have to hear about straight people. Van Ziek.
I say, when a chap says he can't recall such things, it's common decency not to drag it all up. And besides, half of it was wide of the mark anyway.
A likely story.
These waters run very deep.
And what transpired next after these multiple blows to the face?
Hold it!
And the fire also spread some items of furniture, didn't it?
The bookcase, my armchair, anything of mine really. Just so happens there was some bathwater around that evening, so I sloshed that about to put it out. A most precarious situation you've put yourself in. Ours is a 3-story townhouse on the west side of the street where the water main isn't connected yet. Have to draw water from a public pump during the day if you need any, you see.
The lodgers are always moaning that they can't get water at night. Although, that little moustache Japanese man buys water in bottles, I believe.
The defendant, Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, he receives a stipend for his studies, you know, from his home country. Can you imagine? Being able to brew a pot of tea at all hours? He's obviously very well off.
Have you actually seen the state of the man?
I believe he uses all his income to buy books.
Well, anyway, the point is, I was able to douse the fire with water, fortunately enough.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Hold it!
Even though the room was on fire?
As far as I was concerned at the time, it was more important to extinguish my anger than the flames. Well, when a woman wants to throw, she must throw.
That's most certainly not true of a Suzaku takedown, Mr. Naruhodo. How do you know what I was thinking that? I was thinking that. So, please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day? In all honesty, I don't recall. But I feel I must point out that I'm no monster. Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin. I love his by Jupiter there. No less, there's a certain skuma den in Cyrodiil where she'd fit right in.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, sir? They talk while drinking. Oh, okay. Mr. Garrideb.
Oh, don't shoot. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Did your wife's remark just now bring something to mind?
Nothing of any significance, no. Just that the barrage of projectiles the odd thing launched in my direction was somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and the fire poker I seem to recall.
Ouch.
And the woman's aim is uncanny. She even landed a direct hit on belly. Ah! Good grief, woman. We're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Oh, dearie me. Ever so sorry, dear.
What's she even doing with that teapot in here?
Honestly, John, I don't ever friend such things at you, obviously.
Well, take a look at this, then. How do you suppose that happened, Your pipe, sir? Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean off. Out with one of her soft projectiles she did, yes. And when I went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I'd like to see a sponge do that sort of damage.
Gilligan cut to SpongeBob. A murderous look in his eyes. No, that's not what a snarf blast is for, Joan. I don't guess it.
I see. Your pipe was broken. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Anyway, I've managed to bandage the thing up for now.
You're one to exaggerate, aren't you, dear?
I wonder what we should make of this account.
It could be important. The defense believes Mr. Garrideb's remarks just now to be of great significance.
Objection!
This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife, and pipes as well as hearts may be broken.
Betray the wifey and your lifey.
Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worth of adding to the formal testimony. Indeed, common sense, one might say.
Might one. In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Well, I don't see why not.
Oh, dearie me, there you go again, trying to ingratiate yourself with a young lady.
Very well, the court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
That was a Little Mermaid reference. Only the most convulsively reference. Oh. Oh, wait, yeah, because Ariel has all those weird names for stuff she finds. The pipe has been entered into the court record. Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Apparently it fell to the floor during a domestic dispute he had with his wife and broke. I hope I didn't speak out of turn, Mr. Naruhodo. I was just feeling rather disappointed that your request was turned down.
Oh no, it's fine. Thanks to Zato-san, we have some new evidence to work with. We should examine it carefully. Well, thank you for that rebuttal, Mr. Garrideb. Now if we could return to the crux of the matter. What can you tell, of course, about the knife used to attack the victim?
Okay, so the knife has a chip out of it, so if there's some evidence on the pipe of a chipped knife... Hello?
And there's a small nick out of the bowl here, look. It appears to have been made relatively recently.
I see how there are little scrapes and dents over it. It's clearly a well-loved pipe. Yes, you're right. It seems to me that recently being well-loved goes hand in hand with getting some battle scars. This particular nick is catching my eye though, because it's clearly new. Aha! It looks to be in a sorry state with that bandage around it, doesn't it? But for some reason it feels slightly ominous to me, like it's trying to shout out a warning. Probably because it's the same blue as Mr. Garrideb's dressing gown. I suppose it must have considerable sentimental value to Mr. Garrideb, given that he's gone to the trouble of repairing it like this. Either that, or he can't afford to replace it. Oh, something just twinkled inside the chamber of the pipe there. Yes, I saw it. Something's stuck in there, I think. Let's turn it over and give it a shake. What's this? It's a tiny fragment of metal. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Surely it couldn't be. The fragment of metal has been entered into the court record. This small piece of metal looks like it might be the tip of a knife blade. It was stuck inside the bowl of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Okay, that's the evidence I needed. And this is the tiny piece of metal we found in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe. It looks like the tip of a blade or something. The tip of a blade? Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't really know. There's just something niggling me, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Perhaps, in that case, it would be wise to examine some other pieces of evidence again. Hey Nick. Jipe. Jean's pipe. Exactly. How's it going? Okay, let's have another look at the knife. Click. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo. Just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. Wait, part of it's missing? I could be wrong, but I've just got a feeling. You remember this? That's the tiny fragment of metal we found inside Mr. Garrideb's pipe. Yes, and just maybe... Oh my, it's a perfect fit. Somehow, I just knew it. Okay, we've got him. Yep, you're just in time, Nick. I'm about to prove my client completely innocent of all charges. You good? Feeling freshly showered and scrubbed, and now you're ready to chill for the evening. How am I doing? Yep, I'm pretty good. Had a bit of a thing where the keys I used to lock up yesterday turned out to be the wrong keys that I was given, so I had to drive into work to drop them off. So that wasn't too fun, because I was basically having to drive in the rain for like 30 to 45 minutes, because it was basically rush hour and the traffic was awful. Also, earlier I did notice my computer's using a bit more RAM than usual, so I might have to look into that. Like, it was at 50% when the browser was running, and 40% when nothing else was. Actually, no, to be fair, OBS was running. I can't imagine OBS should be making it run at 40% RAM capacity. Anyway, computers are meant to use as much RAM as possible, so you wouldn't worry about it. Oh, that's a good point, actually. Like, something on my computer's definitely not quite working correctly, just because I'm getting a bit of flash, a bit of flickering in places. Mac Sting? Yeah, Nolus was comparing Garrideb to Mac tonight. Nick, my OS will be running Superfetch to try and guess what files I need and filling my RAM with those. Okay, I won't worry too much about it then. I mean, to be fair, it's probably just what it's been doing in the background the entire time, but, I just wasn't checking Task Manager. Okay, so I think I can present the tip of the knife.
Objection!
Perfect. Mr. Garrideb, could I ask you to take a good look at this, please?
You can ask, but I can't see a bally thing.
You can't? Well, that explains why it was still in his pipe.
You used to call me Dead-Eye Deb. Back in the regiment, of course. But that was some time ago. Even when I'm trying to enjoy a large print book by the fire these days, I struggle to tell a B from a D and a P from a Q, to be honest.
Maxting and Londoners pride themselves on their vision. Oh, he does, dearie me. It's rather worrying being asked about every other letter and every other word. You must be very doesy. Oh no, that comment has not aged well at all. And just when Nick entered the chat too. I know what you're thinking, Nick. Don't you dare. What is that? A tiny scrap of metal? Yes, almost certainly from the tip of a blade. And what may appear at first to be just a tiny scrap is in fact a crucial piece of evidence. Interesting. And where did the defence come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe.
My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got there. And what precisely does this fragment of metal signify, Counsel? Are you suggesting there's some way related to the matter of the stabbing in Briar Road?
I am. I wonder, like, why does he keep slapping himself like that? It can't be healthy. What? When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of this case, my lord.
You appear rather confident in our extraordinary statement, Counsel. Very well then, present the pertinent evidence to the court. What evidence, when paired with this fragment of metal, allegedly reveals the truth of this entire case?
The jackknife it fits on.
Take that!
This is the knife that was found in the victim's back. If you look closely, you will see that there is a small piece at the tip of the blade that's missing. A common issue of the inferior blade sold at unsavory street markets. Criminals who use them regularly leave the tips lodged in their victims' bones.
And what of this particular knife?
No doubt its tip has suffered a similar fate, now languishing somewhere near the spine of the victim.
Objection!
No, that's not the case. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Garrideb's pipe.
Oh,
Good grief. Lord Van Zeeks? Are you having a heart attack?
I don't believe it. Playing in a children's court of law has severely injured me somehow. Maxting, it was lodged in its victim. The pipe was the victim. I mean, that's technically true. Ce n'est pas une pipe. Sorry, ce n'est pas une pipe. The knife from the crime scene, and this fragment of metal. Maxting, look at that posture. Shot through the heart. You're to blame. You're real good at this game. Oh, a perfect match.
Good? Good golly gosh! Order, order, order! Is this some sort of Eastern sorcery?
What the fuck? This is no magic, my lord. This is a miracle. Maxting, you hadn't noticed that Mrs. Garrideb was standing on a scully box? Yeah. She's basically like the Cody, what's his name, of this game.
A miracle?
So Van Zeeks has figured it out, has he?
Counsel, explain this extraordinary coincidence at once. Yes, my lord, the crucial point we have to ask ourselves here is when did the fragments of metal find its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe?
Something that was clarified for us in the most recent witness testimony.
Had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles, she did. Yes. It would never have been sent flying unless it was hit by something pretty solid. Oh, dearie me.
Wait, oh dearie me. Wrong voice.
During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Garadeb flung this knife at her husband. However, the knife missed Mr. Garadeb, instead striking the pipe in his hand at the time, which caused the tip to break off. Of course. Good lord. Yes, and that's when the tip of the tiny tip of the blade found its way inside Mr. Garadeb's pipe. The chances of that are 1,000,000 to 1.
And still they came.
And yet, there's no other credible explanation of how the tip of the blade ended up in your pipe. Then, after losing its tip, the knife ricocheted off the pipe and flew out of the open window.
Oh.
In short, this knife, which fell from the window of the Garadeb's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back on the street below.
Maxting, when you eliminate the impossible explanation, what remains, however unlikely, is the truth. Yep, straight from Sherlock Holmes. Oh gosh, oh dear. No.
Objection!
Maxting, you weren't here in the first hour. Do we know oh yeah, we proved the policeman moved the body. He did that, and he basically admitted to it when we called him on it. And Van Zieks let him off because cops protect cops.
A full-bodied fairy, I'll give you that. A complex bouquet of seemingly trivial points, plausibly arranged to create an almost passable vintage. Allow me to toast my learned friend's characteristically Nipponese approach to bottling his argument.
Sorry.
But after all, it is just a theory. A game theory. The bottle, I fear, is corked. Because you see, I'm too sexy for my boots. It is spoilt by an insurmountable inconsistency. An insurmountable... What?
Oh, he's going to ask how it ended up in the woman's bag, but she probably bent down to pick up the book she was holding.
Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. What is this inconsistency you claim to have identified?
Maxting, you lost track. Is this 4 glasses and 3 bottles? I'll be honest, I wasn't counting. Nerless, get to the point, Vlad.
An inconsistency of the simplest nature, my lord. The victim was found with a knife planted in the middle of her back.
Yes, in her. Ugh. That's right, you silly little man.
Now, Joan, old thing, what are you getting so excited about? Let us consider the basic facts of the case once more. The victim was walking along the pavement before being stabbed in the back and falling to the ground. If the knife that struck her had fallen from above, there's no possible way it could have planted itself into the victim's back.
Yep, another glass, Maxting.
Order! Order!
Quite right, you see, that's exactly right. If the knife had fallen on her from above, it would have struck her on the top of the head.
Well,
He's lost for words, look. I knew it. I never liked his theory in the first place.
I know though. What really did happen? It would appear the defense has made a rather spectacular blunder. If a theory has even one inconsistency, it cannot stand. Your theory, my learned friend, is history. We were so close, I could see the truth. I was so sure we were on the right track. But now the way has been blocked completely by just one simple inconsistency. I'm sure I'll get a chance in a moment. Or in other words, we simply need to eliminate that one inconsistency, and the theory will still stand. Miss Suzasso? You mustn't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. You were just caught off guard, that's all, and your mind went blank. But if the path you are on is indeed correct, there's a way, the way will present itself. The key to this is in the court record, I'm sure. All the information you need is there. It seems you have nothing to say, my Nipponese friend. Well, your silence speaks volumes. A tacit acceptance that your theory is fatally flawed. You know, this would be an excellent pose for some sort of, enchanted maiden to strike before she vanquishes her foes. Max Sting, you're going to have to start doing that T-fist elbows and back cheering move. Yeah, it's cute. It's like... This inconsistency doesn't mean I was on the wrong track. It means that I need to sharpen my mind and dig deeper for the truth. It's a test. Yes. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way that it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. What are you implying? Counsel? There's a piece of evidence in the court record that can explain this inconsistency. That can explain how the knife that fell from above could have pierced the victim's back. We already have the answer. You know, thinking about it, Max Sting, I think Maya had the same sort of cheering pose as Suzasso. Goodness. Utter madness. Surely this must be the last time. Counsel, present the evidence of which you speak.
This is the last inconsistency, the final piece in the puzzle. If I can successfully make sense of this, the truth will be laid bare at last. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is... It's the book. Ooh.
Take that!
This, the fourth book found at the scene. This is the final piece of evidence the defense will present. The burnt book.
Is that not Mr. Garadeb's book?
Yes, and to understand its significance, we have to consider how it came to be at the scene in the first place. Notice they're from very similar molds, although Suzasso is less teenager-like. Yeah, thinking about it, how old is Suzasso? Oh, yep, Suzasso is 16, so, yep, she's actually like a year. Actually, no, I think Maya was 19 in the first game, so she's like she's actually significantly younger. Then again, that might have been the that might have been a English translation thing, just because you know, all the murder and stuff. This photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. But as we all know, it was the police constable that put the book between her fingers like that. Quite so.
Also, quite so, as part of his wholesale transplanting of the crime scene to the opposite side of the road.
That's true, however... Oh no, it's going to hinge on the... It's going to hinge on the fact that clearly corrupt cops telling the truth. We can't lose anymore. As part of his testimony, Constable Beat made an extremely enlightening statement on that point. Oh, we're being raided by Mended Pearl. How's it going? You're just in time for the end of case number 4 of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. How's it going? Feel free to disappear if you want to avoid spoilers for this game. It's been out a while now. You're playing 2 Point Museum. How is that? I know 2 Point Hospital and 2 Point Campus were both pretty well received. Perfect timing. Heck yeah. So, context. The defendant's accused of stabbing a random woman in the back. We've established that basically the crime scene was moved by a police officer who didn't want his evening plans ruined by the fact it was in his jurisdiction. And the victim was basically hit by a knife that fell out of a window because a couple were arguing, and the wife threw a knife at the husband, which we've established. So we just need to explain why the woman had it in her back rather than her head. 2 Point Museum is a lot of fun. It's like Hospital and Campus, but much more mechanics. Heck yeah. I suppose that's what you want from that kind of game. And yeah, that's very unfortunate. Basically what I need to prove happened is that, well, a book was thrown out first, and she sort of stopped to pick it up, and while she was bending over, the knife hit her in the back. Although that doesn't explain why the defendant was seen nearby, but there we go. Let's find out. But what made you place that book in the victim's hand? Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it. When we first ran over to the scene, a cab, by the way, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand. I wonder if that guy's supposed to be the ancestor of Mike Meekins. In other words, the victim had already picked the book up for her own volition. And clearly that must have been before she suffered the knife wounds.
Well, I should say so. After being attacked with a knife, I don't imagine she'd have been doing much of anything.
So the question becomes... So yeah, basically the copper moved the entire crime scene, including a woman who had a knife in her back, who it's made very clear was still alive and injured, just so he could make sure he didn't have to change his evening plans. Anyway, enough ranting. So the question becomes, why did the victim have that book in her hand?
Why, by jingo! I think I'm beginning to see what may have happened now.
Oh dearie me. Oh yeah, and that's the couple who were arguing, so yeah, they're responsible for manslaughter. Off to the scaffold with them.
We know that the book fell from the top floor of the Gerardip household onto the pavement below, at precisely the moment that the victim was walking past.
Yes, at exactly that moment. Max Sting, you think it might have been fun for Van Zieks to have been increasingly quietly uncomfortable, and able for the sake of the prosecution to suggest the obvious, that the victim had picked up the book and bent over, being struck by the falling knife. Maybe. Yeah, exactly at that moment. Thinking, just please don't think of that, I want to win. I think the route they're sort of going is he's maybe secretly on our side now. Because he did sort of, allow witnesses to testify and that sort of thing. And he could have just straight up blocked that. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her. The book I threw? Yes, Mrs. Garadeb. What do you think the woman did? What would you do if you're walking along and suddenly a book lands in front of you on the pavement? Well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have reached down and picked the book up. Yes, that is exactly what the woman in fact did. She picked up the book. Oh, heavens. And when the woman reached down to pick the fallen book up, what position would her back have been in? That's right, facing the sky, completely and utterly defenseless. Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. And at that same time, walking by chance directly behind Mrs. Green, was the defendant, Mr. Suzeki Natsume.
Well, I never.
Okay, that explains why he was there. It appeared to Mr. Natsume that the woman simply collapsed on the floor in the dark and the fog. He didn't see the knife falling at her from above.
Oh,
And from the other direction, the constable and his wife saw no one but the victim and her apparent attacker.
So there was never a real culprit to run from the scene in the first place.
No, this was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case. Santa Judge is shooketh. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The very first time you showed me that knife, I had my suspicions. I wondered if perhaps it might have been something like that.
There all been?
Poor Mrs. Garadeb. All she wanted to do was throw a knife at her husband. Of course, I never meant for anything of the sort to happen, but it was all my fault, wasn't it? Doing that harumph face that older men tend to do. I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book. And I threw that knife as well. Exactly, Max Sting. Maybe stop throwing the knives and spattle abusing. Like, okay, she thought he had an affair, but I think, you know, when someone starts throwing knives, it gets a bit... Okay, I know it's being played for laughs, but... John, dear.
It's all right, I know.
I'm ever so sorry. Truly. I'm sorry.
KO.
Okay, and this is actually identical to the wedding photo they had before. The back of his coat's burnt. Oh, sorry, his dressing gown. I'd missed that before.
Lord Van Zeeks, what news of Mrs. Garadeb?
She's been taken to the infirmary. It would appear that today's events had left her in an especially flustered state. However, I believe she will recover in due course. There is no cause for concern.
Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily have been a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequences of their actions.
Okay, cool. They will get tried for, like, manslaughter or something. There is some good news, however, my lord. I have just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctor believes she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her. How wonderful. The woman is out of danger, it seems. Okay, I wonder if she'll be important to the next case. Yeah, that is good news.
So, Mrs. Suzeki Natsume?
Oh yeah, this guy's still here. Thinking about it, he looks kind of like Nikolai Tesla.
Oh, yes. On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, and have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please accept our heartfelt apologies.
Yeah, he does kind of owe them he does kind of deserve an apology, doesn't he? Oh yeah, I guess there's the whole Edgar Allan Poe look as well. I mean, like, he looks like a poet. Kind of like the way they've sort of given him those sort of scribbled eyebrows. No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. Oh no, Mr. Natsume. That evening, when the young woman just collapsed on the pavement before my eyes, I jumped to the wrong conclusion again in my confusion.
What conclusion, sir?
I was sure that the woman was dead. Yes, Constable Beach said the same thing, didn't he? He thought she'd been killed too.
I suppose she must have looked completely lifeless.
It's been about a year since I arrived in Great Britain now, but I still can't get used to life here. I can't relax. I'm sure there are evil spirits lurking in the fog, like they're haunting me. Poor Sasaki-san. His imagination really has got the better of him. Yeah, poor man. To be fair, like, it does get kind of creepy when there's fog around here. Like, once when I was driving to work early in the morning because it was a bakery shift, I was listening to music on my phone and literally just started playing the Silent Hill 2 theme. I think my phone had it out for me that day. So, when it happened, I thought the young woman had been taken by the fog spirits. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. I should have called for help, for a doctor, for the police. Well, to be fair, a fat lot of good the police were. Instead, I managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires. Nicholas, why'd that be on my playlist? Why wouldn't it? It's a banger. Come on. You have my full permission to just Google theme of Flora. Wait, is it theme of Flora? Theme of whatever it is. For Silent Hill 2. It's like, all the Silent Hill music's kind of, feels a bit unconventional for horror. It's like, it wouldn't sort of be, out of place in, like the soundtrack to a sitcom. Or some sort of, television drama. It still has that creepy vibe in it. And, yeah, like all of the Silent Hill sort of themes, or at least the first 3 games do, have that sort of contrast. Like, they'll start off spooky, or, you know, like they'll alternate between being sort of scary and not. Yep, theme of Maria, that's it. Icky, it's also pretty alarming when your laptop randomly wakes up and the Silent Hill 1 OST starts playing from another room. Why is the laptop randomly waking up like that?
One could indeed say that some of the sort of mischievous spirit has been at work here, I think. One that created a chain of unfortunate mishaps. We were befooled by this spirit and led to false conclusions. But thanks to Lord Van Zeeks and our young lawyer here from the east, that chain has now been broken and the spirit exorcised.
Yes. The cause of, miscarriages of justice is definitely ghosts. Nothing to deconstruct here, Your Honour. Sorry. My lord.
I heartily commend you both.
Apparently in British courts, you address the judge as my lord. But obviously, because everyone watches American dramas, they have to keep reminding people not to call them Your Honour.
I heartily commend you both.
Oh,
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for your decision regarding the defendant's culpability. Are you ready to present your findings to the court? As a foreman of this jury, I can assure you we've reached a fair and honest and just conclusion.
I do declare the truth can be extremely cruel at times. Well, I didn't suspect the woman next to me, that's for sure.
Sitting in for the old bean while she's out of action, you know. But I know what her decision will be. Does this mean I'll finally be able to get out of here and start work? Well, it's about time. I say, I'll have a corker of a story to tell the grandchildren when I get home, won't I? Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby demand your final decisions. Mr. Foreman?
Not guilty.
I like that this part's voiced.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Oh yeah, and for some reason the court just has this giant fiery scale for jurors to cast their votes with. And for some reason the fire weighs something.
Very well, Mr. Suzuki Natsume, I hereby pronounce you not guilty.
Alrighty. This is totally accurate to how courts in Britain work, by the way. Did I say Suzuki? To be fair, that is the car I drive. Fun fact, I was actually, literally last week today. Wait, no, last week tomorrow. Sorry, a week ago to, yeah, it's a vehicle brand. Hence why it's the brand my car, yep, they make cars as well as motorbikes, yes. Last Thursday, I went to get my car's tyres replaced. And literally, I went in, dropped it off. They told me it'll be done in about an hour, so I just waited in the cafe. And then when I got a phone call to come back, I went back. And they asked me what my car was, and I was like, you know, when you ask something you should know, but you just can't remember it. It's like, it's a Suzuki Solera, and I've known that. I've been driving it for like 5 years. And I literally could not remember that. To be fair, you've watched anime where the main character's name is actually Subaru. Yeah, to be fair, a lot of car brands are literally just names. Like, they're the names of people who found the companies and like. Or in the case of one electric car company, is the antithesis of the owner.
Oh yes, Lord Sir. You are now a free man once more. It is my hope that you'll continue to further your education in British culture. And may you never again be brought before me.
Oh yeah, yes sir, of course. On my life, I swear I'll never set foot in a courtroom again. I'm transported to tears. Oh yeah. Apparently in the original, sort of in the Japanese text, he speaks in haiku. But here they just turn it into alliteration to translate it.
Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned. Whew. 20th of February, 3:17 p.m. The Old Bailey. Defendants and chamber.
Oh, locum. Wait, you mean me? Of course. Is there another locum here? Is there even one? Compared to the original locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire, your name has become rather short, hasn't it? What's wrong with using my actual name? Oh, at last, I'm free, I'm free. Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation. Heady, hearty, happiness, hurrah. Oh, I'm pleased. Mr. Natsume is delighted. Would it be so hard just to say that, then? Locum, you did it. You saved me from the brink. Well, what happened to the poor woman was in no way your fault, after all. I'm just glad everyone can see that now. No, not that. Lovely, loyal locum lawyer. Yes. I mean, as I said before, I have never got used to life here in Great Britain. I mean, I literally live here and I've never, so that's fair enough. Every time I look over my shoulder, I see foreigners. I see towering brick buildings. And from high up windows, I see them looking down on me, laughing. Look at that little hunchback. Oh, AutoMod has got a spam bot. I'll just leave that. It's holding a spam bot. I'll just let Nolis get that for me when he's back. Unless there's another mod in chat at the moment.
Oh dear, I'm sure it's all in your head, Mr. Natsume. Well, today, you, locum lawyer, gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial bench, and all before those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth. Oh, thank you, Nick. When I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born." Ah yes, so fun fact. In Britain, attorneys are sort of separated into solicitors who do sort of like paperwork and stuff, like writing contracts, and barristers who actually appear in court. And technically, barristers are more sort of prestigious than solicitors. Like solicitors aren't allowed to form firms or something like that. But in theory, they're both equal and have separate jobs. Well, that's very flattering, and we're very pleased for you. This has given me a wonderful anecdote to recount to my old friends back in Japan. An anecdote? Is that what's to become of all my hard work? Ah, there you are, my dear fellows. I apologise for keeping you waiting. I rose late this morning. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, what a pleasure to see you. Oh yeah, this is Herlock Sholmes, original character, Do Not Steal. Well, I'm sure everyone knows about the whole legal situation of saying Herlock Sholmes instead of Sherlock Holmes. Like, literally the Lupin novels. Not to be confused with Lupin the Third anime, whose main character is supposed to be a descendant of the literally Lupin. Literally had a Sherlock Holmes XP called Herlock Sholmes, and a court at the time did actually establish that was reasonable parody. Hence, Herlock Sholmes has always been sort of legal to skirt around the Sherlock Holmes copyright. I see I'm here not a moment too soon. A disaster has been averted, I'm glad to say. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished. What? No! Then my haste was in vain. It's you, Herlock Sholmes. Oh, have we met, sir? This is Mr. Natsume, the man you had arrested, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, I see. I failed to recognize you at first. Our previous encounters had taken place in the gloom, either of your bleak lodgings or that prison cell. I simply couldn't place that curious face in the light. Charming. This is all your fault, Herlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. My apologies, sir, but I assure you I have placed you now. You're that fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Wow. Exactly, no less Benny Cumbo's back. Had you been taken to hospital more urgently? I feel perhaps you would have regained consciousness by now. Oh. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. I do feel very badly about how I behaved. Well, never mind. Now then, what was it you wanted to say to me, sir? Nothing. Priceless. Oh, I am sorry, really, but that was quite priceless. Poor Sasaki-san. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And, it would seem, you're not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits, and now by the Reaper. Oh, Lord Van Ziegs. I haven't forgotten, you know, what facing that man in court means. Even if you're found not guilty, you're still doomed.
It'll be alright, Mr. Natsume. If the Reaper appears trying to make trouble, I'll protect you.
Yep.
With a perfectly executed Zato takedown. And I guess she just flipped over Rhinosuke just because, out of habit, you know?
Much as I like being turned on my head, a bit of a warning might be nice next time, Miss Susato. So, Mr. Natsume, what do you intend to do now? You mentioned something about recounting your experiences to your friends back in Japan. Yes, I intend to return to my homeland soon.
Oh,
It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honoured with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here, and the city it has shaped. I've come to realise that it's my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it.
that's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Oh, thanks for the lurk, Enfys. We're just finishing up here.
Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world, escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all. The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots, and attempt to pen a work of my own. Oh, I see. You want to drop out of, university and become a novelist. A work of literature by Soseki-san. Could be an interesting read.
Oh wait, is this guy based on an actual author?
And what about Miss Susato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry, what about us? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we?
Nihilist, you wish you'd done that, to be honest.
I mean, I wish I'd done something after I dropped out.
A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. I mean, if nothing else, it would have made me a better writer if I'd spent my time writing. Only now does it feel as though we've finally found our feet.
And you're accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not?
That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us. I've calculated we can only afford another 10 nights before our entire budget is exhausted.
Well then, you could take my lodgings. Oh, the windowless room. Ah, but what it lacks in windows, it more than makes up for it with a floor, a ceiling and walls. Great. And of course, I'd be happy to leave behind the accursed evil spirit.
Am I an evil spirit? Wait, is that just what he calls the cat?
Oh yes. It tries to suffocate you while you sleep. It's an infallible wake-up call. We'll think about it, if that's alright. Perhaps I can offer a more welcome alternative. Would you consider taking lodgings with me?
Really?
Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself, though it is up in the attic, I might add. Are you sure it isn't just a storage loft? I spoke with the landlady this very morning on the matter of price, and Iris is cleaning the room as we speak. You must come at once. I presume you have no luggage to speak of.
Oh, this is simply wonderful. What an honour to be invited to take lodgings in the great detective's office. His attic. I'm too overcome for words.
So suggesting we look elsewhere is out then? Then it's settled. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening. And you must come too, Mr. Natsume. I insist.
I don't know what to say, but thank you. And yes. Wonderful. Then I'll go and complete the paperwork for your formal release, Mr. Natsume. It shan't take long.
Somebody's happy. Locum, I knew that you wouldn't let me down. I'm truly delighted to have met you here in London. Likewise, Mr. Natsume, it's been a privilege meeting you too. It's a shame we're going to have to say goodbye so soon. Well, I've come to realise that I belong in Japan. But locum, we'll meet again someday. Yes, I'm sure. And hopefully by then I'll be a successful lawyer. Hopefully by then I'll be a successful author.
Well, my dear fellow, our carriage appears to have arrived. Shall we go, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, Mr. Sholmes.
I've little doubt Mr. Natsume will be released in time for dinner this evening.
And so, with Suzeki-san's innocence successfully established, we rode from Mr. Sholmes to what was to become our new home, 221B Baker Street. Okay, that's probably going to be a final plot twist for the final chapter.
20th of February, 4:41 p.m. The attic room.
So this is to be our new office. Yes, our office. I really like the sound of that. Me too. It's simply wonderful, isn't it? I hope you can see this, Kazuma. It's only a small step. But I'd like to think we're getting a little closer to your dream now.
So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Okay, so that's what it looks like without his coat. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. Yes, thank you so much. It's a delightful room, Mr. Sholmes. I simply adore it.
Good, I'm pleased to hear it. Iris and I are delighted to welcome you.
I hope everyone's hungry. It's nearly time for dinner. We'll eat as soon as Mr. Natsume arrives. We have a lot to celebrate. Iris, you must let me help you. Alright then, Susie. You can be in charge of the salad. Splendid.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, how does it feel to have your own office in the capital?
It's very exciting, actually. I can't help wondering what adventures await us.
Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. Until I discovered the dark truth about the City of London, that is.
Sorry?
London is a glorious place full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights cast the darkest of shadows.
Shadows? What do you mean?
Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo. Welcome to London.
He actually looks really different without his hat.
Of course, at the time, I had no idea of the significance of those words Mr. Sholmes so casually spoke, but it wasn't long before my turn came to lift the facade and see the true depth of the murk that lay behind it.
Finn. Okay, achievement unlocked. Land in London. Completed episode 4 of the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Okay, the adventure of the unspeakable story. The Hand of the Baskervilles. Okay, and this is the final case of the first game. Because obviously this is an omnibus of the both the games in this series. But yep, I guess we'll start The Hand of the Baskervilles on Monday. Which, to be fair, is the quintessential Sherlock Holmes story. Icky, don't they mean the Band of the Baskervilles? Of course. Although the Band of the Baskervilles could be the porn parody of it. Just saying. Anyways, let's find someone to raid. Nerdless, have a good one. Your cards are sorted-ish, so it's back to Hyrule for you. Yep. Enjoy Tears of the Kingdom. Let's use live. Oh, the Bunyip Man's playing Chain Together, I guess with Jonah. Is anyone else live? Not really. I guess we'll raid the Bunyip Man. You're welcome, Mickey. Thanks for dropping by. Maxting, sorry for... Oh, well, don't apologise. Lurks are fine. Just generally hanging's fine. I mean, it's not like attendance is mandatory here. Anyway, I'll be back with more of that on Monday. I'm not playing Glance tomorrow, but I'll probably be in chat watching. At least until I need to get to bed. And on Friday, I'll be on Nick's channel for the finale of Mobius Command. A time-travelling adventure in the Savage World series with lots of Nazi punching. It'll, of course, be the Ides of March. And appropriately, it's going to be set in that Ides of March. Hey, Anorki. You're welcome. Don't know if you just lurk a lot or if you just haven't been back in a while, but it's great to see you either way. And you're quite welcome, Nick. Anyways, I guess I'm going to do a bit of light sewing before bed. And we are going to... Hopefully I'll see everyone on Friday. And maybe in Keith's chat on Thursday. And we're going to raid out in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe. You're still my favourites. Comment about your favourite fictional detective, I guess. I mean, Sherlock Holmes is great, but, you know, there's Columbo, there's Elle from Death Note, and so on and so forth.